is a secret. I know you like to keep it clean. No prying eyes to keep you honest. What do you hide when you hide with me? If you think you're clever, then you've never weathered anyone like me. I've been training all my life. Guess your number's out right. Cause when she calls mine, na 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 na, I'm not gonna lie. Those pretty eyes, are you scared now? You can't erase all the things you've seen. Do you like my shows and all my monsters? Now you're my latest favorite thing. Do you wanna play misbehave? Say the ways you plan to hurt me, abuse and drain me dry. Now you wanna know if you'll make it out alive. Nah, 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 I'm not gonna lie. Don't you want my affection? I thought you said you were mine. Won't you join my collection? La 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 la, you'll be fine. Oops. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the TTRPG Theater. I am your host, Rob Phantom NJ. And there has not been a lot of word about this stream today because, well, I honestly, up until a few moments ago or minutes ago, I wasn't entirely sure that I was going to be doing it. It's been an interesting day. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. It's been an interesting time. Oh man, let me see. I need to take a look and see what this looks like. Hit that tab. There we go. Awesome. Awesome. Here we go. Ooh. Yeah, so it's been a hot minute. I'd like to start by reminding everybody that this stream is sponsored by Trollard Games, makers of Castle Crusades, Amazing Adventures, and other products. They've got a number of Kickstarters currently in progress that are being worked on, and hopefully they will be coming out soon, or at least some of them. I've got one that just released, Amazing Adventures, and I have yet to open the box. However, I do not currently have something to put all the popcorn stuff in, so I'm going to keep that one box for now. I do have some other stuff here that I can unbox, and we'll be doing that in a little while. Ooh, what's yeah. Probably should make sure that I had a bottle of water, but that's okay. It is what it is. So let's see, where are we? Well, so for those of you wondering, I've been on vacation for the last couple of weeks. I went to Italy. I was in Venice for uh about 3.5 days, 4 days or so, and 3.5 days I think it was. We kind of left on the fourth day, and then took a high speed train from Venice to Rome, which was a lot of fun. Uh, I will say this much: I'm American, born, bred, raised, and this country needs to get its act together with regards to high speed rail. I am lucky enough to live on the East Coast where we do have, some semblance of a high speed rail going from Boston down to Washington D.C. area. I don't know if it goes beyond D.C. I've taken it from New Jersey to D.C. I don't know if it goes any further than that. Um, but it does not even compare close to the high speed rail that you have in Europe and in other places. I know Japan, it's a huge thing. Um, we were hitting speeds. We hit a sustained speed going. I think there's like 5 stops in total along the way, and the longest stretch without stops was the final one, going from Florence to Rome. And for a long time, we were pinned at 250 kilometers per hour, which is somewhere in the area of like 201 miles an hour or something like that. It's a real trip when you have a train that is, and you can see the highway from the train, and you are moving faster than the vehicles on the highway, and not by a little bit. We were just basically leaving stuff in the dust. The entire trip from even with the 5 stops from Venice to Rome took about 3.5 hours, and it was fantastic. It was so nice and relaxed. So it was a great trip. See that we are taking an ad break, and I really need to, one of the other things I need to make sure that we have another bot to tell me when the ad break is done. So beyond that, like I said, we did Venice, we did Rome, and they're two very different cities. Venice is like nowhere you've ever been. Venice is one of those things where you go to Venice and you're like, I don't understand how this exists. It's kind of weird being in a city where you'll see cars. Hey, Mike, good to see you. You'll see cars, but not where you are. They're like as you're going in past certain canals, they'll be like on the other side, where they're basically reaches the mainland. Otherwise, there's no cars. Everything is they have what they call water taxis, which are basically small boats that will zip you from place to place. They've got what they call the Vaporetto, which is effectively a water bus. It is they've got regular stops. There are places where you go, you can buy a 3-day pass or a 7-day pass or whatever, where it's basically unlimited riding for those days. And you just make sure you read the map as far as where the stops are. If you have to transfer between them, that's fine. But it's a really interesting way to get back and forth. Sometimes it can get a little crowded. But we went at this is a low tourist time. Venice is very much a tourist city. There are people who most of the people in Venice do not live in the city. They live outside the city because with the flooding and with the how much red tape there is around getting things repaired, Venice is prohibitively expensive to live in. So, everyone we talk to, from people in different shops to, people at the restaurants that we went to, they were all very much, people who lived outside. Hey, Troll Art Games, welcome in everybody. Trolls, and we are going to touch in a bit on the topic that was being discussed, and it's going to be my turn to rant because the discussion of AI imagery, yeah, it turned my stomach, to be honest with you. Um, let's get into it now because you're all here, and while I have you, let me be clear about something, and I will be brutally honest with you. I will not buy from a company that uses AI that for uses AI images if I can avoid it. I will just drop them like a hot potato. I had a map maker who decided that they wanted to start using AI imagery for their maps, and because they were feeling the pressure of making more maps, so instead of doing quality, they decided that they were going to start using AI images, and that was the absolute last map I ever bought from. And the excuse that they gave was, well, that's where things are going. The genie can't be put back in the bottle. See if any of these excuses sound familiar to you, because I'm tired of them. They are bullshit excuses used to justify people not doing the right thing to make yourself feel better about doing the right thing. And I said it before in chat, and I'm going to say it again. I'm a single person working on this cast. And Jay, I appreciate that greatly. It really would have made me sad if there had been. But let's be clear about something. I can't, I can do little scribbles as basically my artwork now is no better than it was when I was a kid, and my artwork as a kid wasn't great. I don't have the time or patience to really more the time as much as anything, but probably the patience because I get frustrated with myself because I can't draw to the level that I want to. And I know that art's expensive. And so, I have to use stock art where I can. I've got to, my what do you call it? The stuff that you see right now, the phantom images, those were commissioned works. The current set, with the exception of this current border was part of a overlay kit that I bought from, I think it was Owned 3D. It's the Crusader version, but the Phantom NJ with the rose and the Phantom Mask with the D20, this is stuff that I paid somebody to make for me. I've got my other overlays that I use for games. I just found found a place that had frames that were on fire. I had a friend who actually created. They didn't, they just up and made it for me. They didn't ask anything for it, but they made a logo for the games that I use. I if there's anybody on on the internet right now who could benefit from using AI imagery, it'd be me. It'd be me. I'm one person. I'm here by myself, and it takes time to do the stuff that could be done trivially with AI imagery. But I have too many artist friends. I have a whole lot of artist friends. Some of them I consider really, really, really good friends. Some of them are people that I've known online for a while, that type of friends where it's more casual. I have one of my best friends, his wife is an artist. I've got to be able to look these people in the eye. It isn't even, even if I didn't know any of them, I know too well how this stuff works, how it, Chris, I wish I could answer that question for you, but I'd have to understand better how Incarnate does its stuff. I used stock art for a game a while back. This is probably 2 years ago. I had a game that I wanted to run, and I wanted something for the background of on a screen for the overlay, and I found some stock art. And was it 100% what I wanted? It got to about 85, 90%. But it was a general photo that worked well, general image that worked well enough for what I needed, and I went there. I've got a dear friend who has been directly impacted where they now have to sit there and convince people that their art is not AI generated, which blows my mind because this person is incredibly talented. Uh, I remember the work that they did on a while back for a particular stream that I'm not going to name. Hi, Taryn. Speaking of my artist friends, uh, and the quality of work that they did was the kind of thing that this should have been the cover of a comic book. It was so damn good. And it kills me that they now have clients who are trying to convince themselves that they're trying to convince the artists that they should be getting a discount because AI was probably involved. And I can assure you that it sure as hell was not. So, it's I can't stress enough how opposed to AI imagery I am. Yeah, no, and Chuck, I'll tell you afterwards who who the person is. I'm pretty sure you're aware of them. But if you want, I'll let you know who it is, and it'll blow your mind. Especially if you're familiar with their work. I and there are other considerations. There is the amount of power AI imagery, and I am not going to call it art. You will never, unless I absolutely have a 100% slip of the tongue, you are never going to hear me call it art because it is not art. Imagery is not art. It just isn't. Our art requires a creative process that, but even artificial, the biggest problem is, and I said this on the stream, AI is a damn buzzword. It's not half of it's not really even intelligent. If it was intelligent, you wouldn't need to sit there and try to figure out how to give it the right prompts. You would be able to take it and just say, I want this, and then go from there and say, okay, now I need you to remove this part and remove this part and not have to refeed it prompts and hope that it gave you the same thing with those things removed. I don't understand. I don't understand how the mental gymnastics that I would have to do to justify to myself using AI is, and St. Vice, you're right, who will not get remunerated. It is, I can't do it. It's just wrong on so many levels, and I'm not going to do it because again, first of all, I'm going to do the right, I want to do the right thing, but also again, I need to be able to look my artist friends in the face. I see what they go through. I see the work and the dedication that they put into it. I see the work and dedication that so many other artists, before Twitter became the absolute cesspool it is now, everyone decided to leave. One of the most beautiful things about everybody starting to move over to Blue Sky was suddenly starting to see artwork on Blue Sky on my timeline and seeing all the various styles, and not all of it. There are artists out there. It was great watching them and seeing the things that they were creating, even if it wasn't particularly to my taste. Just seeing the artwork again was beautiful. And I look at it, and it hurts knowing that these people are getting hurt just because they want to share their art, and they've got to sit there and worry about whether some algorithm or somebody's taking their art and feeding it into the damn algorithm. Overcord. So to play devil's advocate, some people said the same about cabinet makers once upon a time. But here's the thing, Overcord. The problem, and I was saying this before, the problem isn't about the quality, because you can still go and find people who are, it's not cheap made stuff. I mean, there's always been a way to make cheap made stuff, but they're not stealing, it's competition, but it's not competition by stealing from the cabinet makers to make the plywood stuff. mimics, but it mimics. But the thing is, the cheap stuff will never be able to really match. You can look at the cheap stuff. The problem is well, you say that, but the problem is AI. The better the AI stuff gets, the harder that comparison gets, and it's not the same thing. And again, it's not a matter of the quality. It's a matter of the process and how that happens. It's the fact that the if it would be like somebody taking 200 cabinets, made 200 cabinets, handcrafted, gorgeous cabinets, somebody tossing them into a bin, putting a couple of words into a computer next to the bin, and spitting out another taking all that stuff and suddenly spitting out a cabinet of your liking that kind of mimics the stuff that was there. Not exactly, because you're using prompts. You're not getting those prompts exact. And meanwhile, the cabinets are still there, but now you're basically making a replica that's close enough, but it's not the same, and you're doing it off of somebody else's work with no real work of your own, other than how good are you at describing what you want. It's not the same thing. But yeah, I can't stress enough. Like I said, I dropped the map maker. There is, I will be the first to admit, now I'm one of the Greyhawk creatives. I'm part of the Greyhawk creatives community. All my CNC games are run in the world of Greyhawk. And there is a new thing now that the DMs Guild is open. Somebody uploaded a resource to the DMs Guild, and I think it might even be free to download, but they fully admitted that they use AI art. God, I said it. AI imagery. They said the words AI art. I call it AI imagery. I'm not going to download it. I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to touch it, because I am not going to, I am not going to act like it's okay, even if it's free. I don't care. It doesn't matter, because the harm is still being the fact that the price point is zero. Doesn't make it right. I don't. It is still hurting those artists. And I'm not going to do it. And the people there's the fine line of saying I'm not going to judge people who do you. I am. I will be freaking honest with you. I am going to judge people who are using it who don't need to be using it. And honestly, no one needs to be using it. There's other ways to go about it. Well, yeah, Chris, and that's part of it. I've said AI is a buzzword, and that's the problem. Is AI is a buzzword. It's not a real thing. They don't have. You wouldn't have the issue with AI. They're one of the issues that they found is AI with the minimal amount of prompts tends to be, if you're using it to draw people, tends to be a little racist, because the images that it's being fed on are those that are the stereotypical version of certain groups. So yeah, there's also that. There's so many problems. I don't even get into the whole impact on the environment, because I don't have those numbers. I know the amount of processing cycles required to generate an AI image versus something like Chat GPT, which has its own issues, but it's a little easier to make sure that that's trained on on public domain work. So still not crazy about it. It still gets a little in the weird, because more because there's not enough protections around it versus otherwise. But the problem is, the AI imagery requires so much more processing power, even for a simple AI image, than anything else, that becomes problematic too. But again, I don't know enough, and I am not well informed enough on the environmental impact. I don't need to, because I even before I get to that part, I'm already sold on the harm being done and the ways that it's not a good thing. I appreciate all of you hanging in for that. You can tell that I needed to get some stuff off my chest, because that entire conversation had was putting a hole in the pit of my stomach, and it was not doing me any good. So I was going to kind of wait and maybe hopefully calm down, but you all jumped in, so figured may as well do it while everyone is still here. And again, I appreciate all of you. Um, yeah, and again, to the troll lords, if you're listening, please don't do not. I enjoy being sponsored by Troller Games. I enjoy running Castles and Crusades. I'm running Castles and Crusades at GaryCon. I've been running Castles and Crusades ever since they released the player's handbook for free in what do you call it, in 2020ish or so, during the during the pandemic. And I had a game that I was running on Friday nights here for for about 3 years. And there's going to be a point where I'm going to start running a Friday night game again. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, I just don't. Chuck, there's stuff Steven was talking about possibly for advertisements. Don't. There is absolutely zero upside in a company Trollord size in using any AI generated images for anything. That is a good way. That is a really, really good way to shoot yourself in the foot. And the last thing you want to do is, at a time where, there's an opportunity for the company to grow and find, people who are potentially moving on from D&D to other games and looking for something different. And Lord knows that I've done everything I can to push. I've introduced at least 30 new people to Castles and Crusades over the years, many of whom are still playing with me in various times. There was something that was said, Chris. There was something that was said offhand by Steven during that was talking about like promotional materials or something. So it's don't just please, for the love of God, don't, because I don't want to have to make that choice. I like you guys. I like supporting the company. If you aren't clear as to how much, I'm finally at a point where there are stuff in the TLG store that I don't own. So, I can actually make purchases again, because for the longest time, for probably the last year and a half, I owned everything TLG made, both in digital and physical format. So it's not like I'm, fly by night here. I don't, I don't want to ever have to make that decision. All right. So, I think I'm going to get to the point where, yeah, no, I appreciate that, Chuck. It was, let me put it this way. The floating the trial, the way that the thing was put on social media felt like it was floating a trial balloon. And it gave me the screaming heebie-jeebies. It was not. I was riled up by the time I got to the stream. And the conversation, the way the conversation was going, was not making me feel any better about it. So yeah, let's go back to the olden days and talk about I've been talking about Venice and the weirdness that is Venice, because again, you are in a city that really just it's a city that should not exist. It's a bunch of islands with new canals running between them, and basically you're walking through alleyways that have little strips of sidewalk over, next to water. There's only really a few large, there's not all that many really large areas to congregate in. One of them being St. Mark's Square, that being probably the biggest one because it is also easily the biggest tourist attraction in Venice. But it's an interesting place when you between, and I want to thank those of you who followed, and I saw Overcourt, I think it was, and NPL Illustration. I appreciate the follow. I believe I saw Retro Gamer Meth and somebody else subscribe, and I appreciate that. I apologize for missing who else was in there. But it's one of those things where you will go through. It probably does. It probably does. It gets really interesting because Venice, honestly, as a city, isn't that old. I mean, it goes back to like I guess, I don't remember when Venice, but compared to Rome, Venice is relatively young. Keith, good to see you, sir. You missed my rant? 35 months. Wow. I appreciate you. But you get to Rome, and this is that was my first trip in Venice. I went to Rome, and this was the second time. And Rome is a great way to reset your thinking about what belongs in a fantasy campaign. Because I think we kind of get the idea in our heads a lot that a lot of buildings, unless we're talking castles, like castles and possibly churches, you get this idea that everything else should be kind of like squat, maybe a couple of levels. And go find Roman refugees around 160. Oh, I love it. Oh man. But you go to Rome, and it's so weird. You'll be walking down the street, and like just suddenly there's a doorway there with these ancient looking doors, and Latin above the door frame. And thankfully the best, one of the best things I can tell you in terms of Rome, if you're going to go to Rome, is to learn to count to 2,000 using Roman numerals. Because if you can count to 2,000 in Roman numerals, you are going to have a great time in getting a feel for how old stuff is. Like new stuff there is from the 1800s. It's, I'm walking down, and the street that our hotel was on, we're watching them tear up and replace cobblestones in the street, which was an interesting thing to watch, because you're walking down cobblestone streets, and there's just this doors to the church, and it's like the old massive double doors and writing above it, and trying to figure out exactly how old this thing was. I think this particular one dated to like the 1500s. You're walking, and another interesting thing with Rome is there is a lot of alleyways. And by I mean legit alleyways where you might be two people walking side by side is about as much as you're going to do. You walk, and there'll be like doors just there. You'll suddenly see like a smaller double door, and there'll be a garden just beyond it. A little Roman villa with the main door in an alley. Which is really, really cool to see. And then suddenly, like, there's one particular place where we're walking, and you walk down this one particular alley, and we love it because it's on the way from one area that we frequent, and there's a restaurant we love right there. but you're walking and suddenly you come up against this giant wall. You have no idea what you're looking at when you're right there. It's impossible to tell. But turns out that if you make a quick left and you walk into the piazza or the square right there, you realize that the wall that you were looking at was the Pantheon. A 2,000-year-old Roman temple converted into a church, still standing, dome ceiling, big, massive pillars, and it is everything that ancient Rome. It's probably. I'm trying to think if there's anything else there from ancient Roman times that is that as complete as the Pantheon. I honestly don't think there is. Pantheon itself, because the Pantheon was it was one of those things where it was converted into a Catholic church, so it was well maintained. Everything about the Pantheon, but again, this is a 2,000-year-old building, and it just comes at you out of nowhere. Now, if you happen to walk into the square from a different direction, you see it, but you're walking down this alleyway, and suddenly there's this ancient structure in front of you, and it's just, yes. I've been to that gelateria. Yep, gotta love me some gelato. We didn't do much gelato in Rome this time. We did get gelato in Venice. Actually, we might have done gelato the first day we arrived in Rome. But yeah, I mean, one of the things that we did do on this particular trip is this place called the Baths of Caracalla. And they were built, it was built in, I want to say like 210 AD or something like that by one of the emperors. There were 25 of these. They're basically public baths. The best way to think of them, they were used by the general public. They were effectively open spas. You could, you could take a bath, hot water, cold water. There was a swimming pool, basically a swimming pool area. There was an area where you could play board games, and they had one of the tables out where, the surface you could see where they would play board games. And what strikes you is this thing is huge. It was like its own little marketplace type village, as far as like walking around, and you would get people walking from all around, and there were multiple floors to this 2,000 years ago. It kind of boggles the mind when you realize the scale to which these things were built. If the Romans were good at any one thing, it's engineering. The water was fed in by the aqueducts. They had an area for underneath a sub area where we saw the area where the furnace was that would basically use to feed hot water into the hot bath. But there was also built in an area that was dug out from one of the hills. And again, it's ridiculous to think that this was just one of 25 that were dotted out throughout the city in ancient Rome. There are large pieces of the wall standing. There was one area where this thing had a dome on it, similar to the Pantheon. The dome itself is gone, but you can see the circular parts of the wall where the dome would have been. And your mind goes to, it's like, all right, I need to rethink about what kind of adventures I'm running in a city. What kind of things would be happening, what kind of services. I wish my knowledge of the dialogue of Life of Brian was better than it is, but I appreciate that drop in. I see what you did there. the so and one of the things that was impressed upon us was the fact that up on the hill, right, not far from it, would be multi-level apartment buildings. And I don't want to say they invented. I don't know that it's not so much that they invented it, but one of the things that kind of got popularized in Rome was fast food. Because these complexes would be 5 levels high. You would need to walk to the top level. They would at least partially be made of wood, if not, large parts of it, maybe even the complete upper levels. So there wasn't really a way to cook, especially after the fire, Nero, and everything. Nobody, people were going to be very, very careful about allowing fire anywhere other than safe areas. So, a lot of places didn't have a way to cook. So you would go to, maybe the market near the bath or one of the baths or somewhere nearby, and you would get food that basically you'd get takeout. You would get, different types of things. And you might eat it right there. You might bring it home, but more than likely, you're probably going to find somewhere nearby, have a seat, and eat, and probably eat with other people. So it's these are the kind of things that you think about, like running adventures in a city and what that might look like, and so many things come to mind. It springs so much. What it would look like for fights to go on in alleyways in between busier streets. What an alleyway actually is in a large city. We tend to think of alleyways as something where you're on a street, you dip into an alley, and basically 30 feet in, there's a wall there. What's the prototypical alley? Is like there's a fence or something at the end. No, these were alleys that would connect entire different major thoroughfares, and they're all over the place in Rome. It's there probably are more alleys than proper streets in Rome, to be honest with you. So it's so cool. One of the other things that was was amazing, and this is something we got to see this time. We were nearby, but we got to see it this time. Was the Castel San Angelo. This is a place that, if my memory is correct, was initially built, and it's right along the Tiber River. And as you're looking at it, it's a multi-story. It looks like a multi-story fortress, and that's kind of what it ended up being. It started off as a tomb for an emperor, or was being built as a tomb for an emperor. And at some point, as the Catholic Church became more powerful, and basically, especially after the fall of the empire, and where the Pope really was the power in Rome at that point, depending on what level of the kings who were in charge, but the Pope had a heck of a lot of power and pretty much ran things. On one side, you have a lot of what most people know as the proper areas of Rome. On the other side is, just off in the distance, is Vatican City. The castle, Castel San Angelo, ended up being rebuilt or repurposed as a fortress. And what's really cool is there is an elevated walkway that is visible from the top of the structure that goes between the Vatican and the fortress, where basically the Pope, if the city was under siege, the Pope would leave the Vatican, make his way over into the fortress with whoever, and they would just basically set up shop there and wait out the siege. So it's like the things that you think about when you're like talking about building out a city and things that could possibly be there. Now, you know, we look at a lot of cities, these days, and you'll see, especially fantasy cities, they'll have walls, and they might have, you might envision something like Minas Tirith, where there are multiple walls on multiple levels, and the city's a bit vertical. Minas Tirith is, a bit of would be a bit of a kind of a unicorn in that regard, but I'm sure there are modern, there are fortresses around the world that kind of had that look to them. Um, Actually, I mean, technically, Rome itself really started at the top of a couple of hills and then built out. Ah, one of these days, I actually need to see Roman holiday. Oh man, what's really cool is it's like, yeah, the river. There aren't many river barges on the Tiber these days. I can tell you that much. The Tiber, both trips we took, the Tiber was really, really low. Weren't many boats going by of any type. But yeah, it's such a cool thing. Um, Got to see when we visited the Baths of Caracalla. Also saw the Circus Maximus. There's not much there at this point. You can see a bit of the old structure. And you got to get idea of how long it is because it's really, it's a really really long structure. But then the problem right now is for you to get a better idea of it, they would need to dig because most of it is kind of really buried at the moment. Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Thieves' hideouts. Uh, I mean, there are some places where, looking around, it looked positively sketchy. We never thought we were in any danger because the city is busy enough and whatever, and we weren't wandering alleyways at night, at least not on this trip. But there are a few places we walk by where, under different circumstances, it would look perfectly sketchy and the kind of thing where you could use as a thieves' hideout, criminal racket, you name it. Um, I, it's funny that you should mention that because on our first trip we did lunch at this one place where I would almost if that place was not a mob front, I'm my radar on that front that end is off. It's kind of thing where we walk in, it's around lunchtime, and there were exactly three tables. There was us, there were these two guys in business suits on the far side of the room, and then there was another group all in business dress or whatever. And the woman who, basically they might as well just called her mama. She walks out, and the food was really good. Everybody was really kind, and we were on our best behavior and left without a word as soon as we were done because it's one of those things where it just screamed something's off here. Because the food was entirely too good for this place to be, have as little business at lunchtime. Oh yeah, absolutely, Cardman. There, uh, the problem, one of the problems I have with Venice is the fact that I've been having physical issues, and it got better as the trip goes on, but Venice taxed me a lot. It was difficult. So we took our time. We did hit Murano where they do all the glass blowing. And we got to watch the glass blowers at work, which is something really awesome to see. Uh, but yeah, that was a cool part of the trip. Uh, and then we did on the Friday during the day we did the Capitol Line Museum. uh, which that's one where I knew things were getting better because the first thing the Capitol Line Museum involved was getting out of our Uber and walking up the very long hill, not exactly steep, but long enough to the base of the museum itself. Which at the beginning of the week, if I had looked at that, I would have just said nope, not happening. But I was able to get through it. We took our time, took plenty of breaks, but there got to see the statue of Marcus Aurelius, which was very very cool. Um, that's funny. Uh, interesting thing. Interesting thing. Patty Guggenheim was is it that we were when we were in Venice. We did a we did a vaporetto that went past it, and we had oh god, what's his name, Steve something. He does audio tours, and you can get on a particular vaporetto and take it up the Grand Canal and go past Guggenheim, and talking about Patty Guggenheim, and that woman was something else. Oh boy. Talk about female playboy is probably the best way to put it, because she lived a life. Uh, but yeah, we went by her estate and the various places where she stayed and various places where she had liaisons with lots of famous people. Uh, but Rome, the Guggenheim Museum, not the Guggenheim, the Capitoline Museum. One of the really cool things about the Capitoline Museum is just outside at the top of the hill, you've got this amazing view of the Roman Forum. There, the Colosseum is off in the distance, and it's just like a picture out of time. Might be Steve Reeves. I'd have to go look. Uh, it's something like that. I don't. For some reason, I want to say it's Reeves, but it's something like that. Rick Steves. Rick Steves. That's his name. That's why it sounded familiar. Rick Steves Audio Tours. He does a great job. We had used his when we did our first trip to Rome. But yeah, it's like so cool, and you walk past, and the history is just everywhere. Yep, that's the one, Willie. It was so cool, and just the imagination just goes everywhere, and inspiring in terms of things that you want to use. That's all right. I had the same one. I had the same brain fart you did. In terms of things that you might want to use for a role play. I was thinking about the fact that I was thinking about the fact that the Brindisium in Aird is Roman inspired, and it was it's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, what can I use? What would make sense without it, all feeling ancient? What can I use from here if I was going to do something in Brindisium? Um, got ideas, and there's a chance that if I reinstitute my Friday night game, and if it's CNC, it might be placed in Brindisium, because it's a place that there's the Brindisium Adventures, which has I think 2 or 3 adventures that somebody wrote up for the area. Other than that, there's the stuff in the Marbleline Coast, and of course the expansion for the Codex, as well as the standard Codex of Aird. But that's about it. So it's an area that I could play with. All right, Chuck. What do you call it? Good to see you. Thanks for the raid, and thank you everybody who's coming in. We do have a giveaway going on. As you saw right now, I've only got 3 entries, so your chances are good. It is ! Ticket to enter, and we'll do it at the end of the raid. And it occurred to me that Lord Gazumba, I believe, is not streaming tonight because he had a medical procedure. So I'm going to need to figure out who it is I'm actually raiding into. I know who I can raid into. Um, yeah, yeah. Um, Figure out what they're doing and how long they've been on. All right. What else did I have? This is one of the things. I had my rant, my Roman stuff. Oh. Hold on a second. One moment. I did mention that I have some unboxing to do. I also mentioned before everybody rated in that I still have not opened my Amazing Adventures box. So that is going to be I don't have a place to put all the packing peanuts at the moment, and I don't want them spilling all over the floor. So my first box to open. Uh, two of these three packages are related. I'm pretty sure they're both two of the three are related, unless I'm completely off as to what one of these packages is. Doing this thing with a razor blade should not be that. I am not doing that well with coordination today. Oh, that's because there's another set of tape. Do, 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 do. All right. What do we have? Packing peanuts. That's what. Oh, it's perfect. Lord Fourth, I don't believe he is. So I supported the Patreon, not Patreon, the Kickstarter. I think he did via Kickstarter. Or actually, this one might have been BackerKit. I don't even remember anymore. Anyway, I did the funding for 13 Parsecs by Jason Vey, otherwise known as Troller Jason. The guy who originally came up with Amazing Adventures and has rewritten most of it. For those of you who are not aware, Jason has his own company called Elflair Games. And he's currently got he's got three games out now. Some he's written by himself, or the vast majority he's written by himself, like 13 Parsecs. There is also his last one was The Wasted Lands. 13 Parsecs is very much science fiction. There is all kinds of stuff in here. I'm going to read the back. 13 Parsecs Beyond the Solar Frontier offers all the rules you need to run any sort of science fiction campaign, from gritty cyberpunk to outer space war dramas, to science fantasy in the grand planetary romance tradition, to hard sci-fi, isolationist, starfaring horror, and beyond. Whether your jam is Asimov, Lucas, Roddenberry, Larson, Bradbury, Clark, Dick, Gibson, Heinlein, or any other, 13 Parsecs will do the job. Powered by Ogres, the celebrated rule system, it seamlessly integrates with our other games. Ogres is OGRES. I forgot what the actual acronym stands for. Let me see if I can find it. Old school generic role playing engine system. So, all the TLG stuff has the Siege engine. Jason's games, Elflair game stuff is all on ogres. Uh, it's actually, and I think he tends to include how to switch things over to the siege engine if you want. Because he does mention, I believe that's part of one of the things he includes. But it works off basically three different types of dice rolls. There are standard D20 rolls, there are percentage die rolls, and then anything else is covered by the rule of two, where you'll roll a particular dice. Depending on the difficulty, will determine which dice you roll, and success is on a 1 or 2. So, those of you who are used to like old school AD&D, where D6 would be rolled and things would happen either on a 1 or a 2, you'll be right at home here. So, very easy to learn, very easy to master. Spell casting is not guaranteed. You roll percentage dice to see whether it works. Obviously, you can change things up if you want, but Jason does incredible work. He's the level of prolific that he is, and the way if you're ever wondering whether to support any of his stuff in terms of Kickstarters or however he crowdfunds a given project, and you're looking to support something that isn't going to take you a year to get, I can guarantee you that when Jason puts something into a crowdfunding and starts the crowdfunding for it, it's like 90% done already. His average for the 3 project, well, Night Shift, I got Night Shift when the expansion was released. Night Shift Veterans of the Supernatural Wars, where you basically can play any of the archetypes from the various television shows. A Buffy-like character, a Supernatural-like character. The brothers, charmed witches, or just witches in general. He got to be very careful about how we say it, but basically any of the familiar tropes in terms of characters on those types of shows are available, and it's monster fighting. He's got fantastic rules for running different styles of games, for changing it from a gritty game to all the way to a purely cinematic. The story is the thing. Less grit, more story, or the story's real focus. For those who want that type of thing, and also somewhere in between. It's fantastic. All 3 games are meant to be interconnected in terms of being able to use things together. If you find inspiration in one you want to use in one of the other games, you can. And the games tend to arrive on the doorstep within like 3 months of when the crowdfunding thing ends. If the countdown for the crowdfunding ends on say July 1st, there's a very good chance by October 1st you're going to have the books in hand, unless something goes wrong with the physical printings of them. You're almost definitely going to have the by that point, and I would almost guarantee that you'll have finalized versions of the of the books in PDF. Wally Hobbit, good to see you, my friend. Scott, when did the latest Grey cast drop? And do I have one for you? I don't know that I have one. And something, I saw Taryn before and I saw Jay before and I forgot. Listen, let me do this. And for Lord Gazumba. But Wally, I think, Scott, I need for you what you would want in a what do you call it? What you would want in a shout out for Great. I mean, right now you're still not streaming, correct? So I'd want to do a shout out for you for the Grey Cast because it's great stuff and you deserve it. And I want to make sure that you're being supported properly. Uh, all right. So, like I said, if you're looking for somebody to support who does amazing work and gets it out in a timely manner, so that you're not sitting there waiting, um, for a long time because, we're I'm gonna give I give the TLG guys a bit of a pass on some of it because there are some things that happen that just were not their fault. It got, and of course what ended up happening was it spiraled on them, and so but we all know that there are certain there've been certain crowdfunded stuff that has taken forever and a day to come out. Oh, my pleasure, Scott. I want to make sure that I'm helping those, helping my fellow creators. Uh, well, all right. So let's see. Next up, I think this is related to 13 parsecs as well. Need to be careful. Mm, Although when I can't figure out how I was supposed to open these up, I don't want to use a razor blade because I don't want to potentially ruin what's inside. In between cardboard. Yep, that's figuring. Wrapped in plastic in between cardboard. And we're on a commercial break. So, for those of you who are not seeing commercial and an ad break and want to, what we call it, have not already, please, uh, please take the time to sign up for the or enter the giveaway. All right. Are we back yet? Has the ad ended yet? All right. So here we are. We've got 13 parsecs. These are the inserts for, and I need to get a physical screen to put them in, but we've got physical inserts for a GM screen for 13 parsecs. So very cool. Lord Fourth, I believe it's ticket, exclamation point ticket to enter. Scott, and you just saw it. There's the $10 digital product giveaway for Troller Games. Feel free feel free to enter. And I got one last thing open. This one is from Necromancer Games. Otherwise known as our friends at Frog God Games. I believe Necromancer Games is just one of their one of the names that they release products in. Right. And what these are, this was crowdfunded. It came out really quickly. And the best part is they are for castle. These are for castles and crusades. We have the 12 Days of Orcus. I can't imagine how that could possibly go wrong. Okay, it looks like it was just 2 adventures. And the Feast of the Fork, also for CNC. Designed for use with Cast Crusades. Party size 4 through 6, levels 3 to 4 for Feast of the Fork. And for the 12 Days of Orcus, party size 4 through 7, levels 5 through 7. All right, and they should all be playable within. They save. One of them is 4 to 8 hours. The other one's 5 to 8 hours. So you should within 8 hours you should be able to run both of those adventures. 8 hours you should be able to run one of those adventures. I'm excited. It's really cool. This is those are the first of the. No, actually that's not true. I think I supported them last year on PDF format for the one, but yeah. It's cool getting some third party stuff for Castles and Crusades. All right, I want to thank everyone. You all been amazing. I'm really thankful that so many of you have hung around. It was really cool. I appreciated the spirited conversation while I was ranting about AI. Again, NPL illustration overcord. Thank you for the, thank you for the follows. Roger, I was on Keith, Retro Gamer Meth. Thank you for what we call, and Lord Gazumba. Thank you for the subscriptions. And TLG, thank you so much for the raid and sending the people my way. And thank you all of you. I don't care if you're here, if you're lurking, you're talking. I appreciate each and every one of you. It means a lot that you chose to spend this time with me. And I don't know what I'm doing next week. Obviously next week is Thanksgiving here in the States. Maybe I'll see possibly about doing a stream on another day. If I don't, I hope that all of you have, those of you who are celebrating, have a happy Thanksgiving, with family and friends. And with that, I'm going to close the giveaway. We will be raiding shortly after. So please hang around for the raid. Ollie Hobbit. All right. Last one in, first one out. Congratulations. You know something? I've got extras. Because of the conversation that we had and the fact that we got a couple of subs, I'm going to draw 2 winners. And Willie the Rat. All right, excellent. Willie, do I have you on Discord, Willie? I don't remember. Willie and Wiley. That's kind of funny. Oh man. Willie, do you know if I have you on Discord? Have I sent you anything before? If not, can you send me either send me a message and I will get that to you. All right. Let's raid into Reaper Miniature. Then I might not. What Discords are you on? Or what Discords are you on? Or you're on the TLG one? If so, as Willie or as something else? because I can find you that way as long as you're online in Discord. We're going to raid Reaper Miniatures. They are doing some, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but some Bone 6 stuff, holiday season says. Looks like they might be doing a little painting, but you know, Reaper's cool. I've got Reaper Bones 5 and Bone 6 stuff that I really need to paint, and hopefully we'll get to do some this weekend. Channel has follower or subscriber only chat. Okay, well, I'm at least a follower, so. You know, what I need to do is I need to change my raid raid emoji to a one that anyone can use. I don't know if it currently is. I know I have one. But we'll see. Otherwise, you know, yeah. If you can come up with something Phantom related, go for it. I love it. I love the energy. But thanks everyone, and again, I will see you if not next week, the week after, and see you on the flip side.